This video is about Booklet 2, Communication. This booklet includes 2 sessions, written mainly with the carers in mind. The first is about communicating with family and professionals. The second about ways to communicate well with people with dementia.
I think that was a very useful one because you can begin to feel that the person you're caring for becomes a stranger in a way. It was still definitely my father, but as he changed, understanding how to communicate with him was challenging. So I think the session supported myself and my siblings in understanding that that actually was a real thing that was happening and that it happened to other people and we were not on our own and that there were methodologies for approaching that. So it gave us those techniques and strategies to think about how best to communicate.
Session 1 starts by asking the carer to think of a time when they have found communicating with care professionals challenging. Next, the facilitator talks through 3 different communication styles. These are passive communication, which avoids conflict and arguments, but leaves people feeling upset and unsupported. Aggressive communication, which causes conflict and anger. And assertive communication, which supports problem solving and working together. This leads into a discussion about how the carer communicates, where the facilitator asks how they communicate with doctors and healthcare professionals, how they communicate with family members or friends, or when asking for help, and how they would like to change their communication pattern in these situations. Supporting carers to ask for help is an important part of NIDUS family. The facilitator asks the carer to describe a situation where they asked for help and things didn't go as they hoped, and then invites the carer to role-play it. Not everyone can think of an example, so there are some scenarios in the booklet that the carer can use instead. The facilitator asks the carer to try out the assertive communication style discussed in the session, and make a note of how this goes and discuss it at the next session. The second session explores what carers have found helps when communicating with the person they care for with dementia and what makes it more difficult. The facilitator uses a story to talk through a communication difficulty. Susan wants her husband John, who has dementia, to come outside with her. He is watching television. She shouts from another room to turn off the television so that they can get ready. He ignores her. She shouts louder. John continues to ignore her. Susan is feeling so stressed, she begins to cry. The facilitator then explains the problems with language that dementia can cause. The carer is asked to think of a time when they had a difficulty communicating with the person living with dementia. They talk it through with the facilitator using the prompt questions in the module. After this, the facilitator and the carer look through some tips for how to communicate.
So communication will be so different between different dyads, between different people with dementia, their carers, and in order to make sure that the module is meeting the needs of the person that you're working with, it's really important to leave gaps, to let the person give feedback about how they're finding things, to let you know if they're not finding it helpful, because then you can tailor things. You might adapt what you do next. So allowing silences and creating opportunities for feedback and conversation is really crucial.
Next, the facilitator introduces a story which explores the dilemma carers often face of how to be truthful but not cause distress. Gloria has recently started asking her son when he visits where her mother is. When her son tells her she has died, she becomes upset. Her son now dreads the visit as he knows this will happen. The facilitator uses this example to talk through what John could do differently. Finally, the facilitator asks the carer to think about how the person with dementia's ability to understand and express themselves might have changed, and how the carer has needed to change how they communicate. The facilitator encourages the carer to notice how they communicate in different situations and how this affects how they feel or how the situation turns out. They suggest using the planning record, which can be discussed in the next session.
Communication is really key. And I think the reason it's a popular module is that it underlies a lot of the other modules. Because if people can be supported to communicate really, really well with a person with dementia and with others in their network to kind of widen their network of support, that's sort of a building block for other modules. So I think often we would use that module before other modules as a basis to then make changes in other areas.